This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, in a significant reversal of US foreign policy, Biden removes Cuba from the terrorism blacklist. Yeol is finally arrested, and UK inflation drops. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday the 15th of January 2025. With less than a week left in office, the Biden administration has announced plans to remove Cuba from the US terrorism blacklist, known as the State Sponsors of Terrorism list, and to ease sanctions on the communist nation. This marks a significant step towards normalizing relations between Cuba and the United States. Cuba was first designated a state sponsor of terrorism in 1982, during the final decade of the Cold War under President Ronald Reagan. By that time, diplomatic relations had long been severed, largely due to Cuba's close ties with the Soviet Union and its enduring trade embargo imposed by the US. It was former President Barack Obama who first removed Cuba from this designation. However, when President Trump took office in 2017, he adopted a more hardline foreign policy, reinstating sanctions on Cuban products. In the closing days of his administration, Trump placed Cuba back on the terrorism list, with his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo stating that his decision was meant to hold Cuba accountable for its, quote, support for international terrorism and subversion of US justice. Trump cited Cuba's support for Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro as a key reason for re-establishing Cuba on a list that now includes only North Korea, Syria, and Iran. He also imposed strict financial restrictions on many Cubans, prompting Cuba to denounce the move as cynical, hypocritical, and politically opportunistic. Biden's decision to roll back these stringent Trump-era policies has significant implications for Cuba's economy. Being on the State Sponsors of Terrorism list has hampered major banks and foreign investors from operating legally in the country. By lifting these restrictions, Biden aims to ease limits on financial assistance and trade, allowing humanitarian organizations, church groups, and other human rights entities to provide aid to Cubans without the fear of sanctions. Additionally, the administration intends to block individuals from pursuing lawsuits linked to properties seized during the Cuban Revolution, a step aimed at reducing tensions surrounding long-standing property disputes. Cuban officials have welcomed this decision, calling it a step in the right direction, albeit with limited nature. In return, Cuba announced it would release 553 prisoners held for various offences, including those involved in anti-government protests in 2021. However, as Trump prepares to assume office once again, there are concerns about whether these changes could be easily reversed. While it's not a straightforward process, Trump could issue a series of executive orders in his early days back in office that might effectively nullify Biden's actions. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Ian Mann, then consider joining the TLDR Daily Membership Program for just $1.99. In other news, Yeol has made history as South Korea's first sitting president to be arrested, facing charges of insurrection stemming from a failed martial law order on December the 3rd that destabilized the country. His arrest on Wednesday concluded a tense standoff between his security team and investigators that had lasted for weeks. Investigators from the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, or CIO, failed to arrest him on the 3rd of January after being locked in a 6-hour standoff with his security detail. Today, however, the 64-year-old leader was taken into custody after investigators from the CIO scaled barricades and cut through barbed wire to reach his residence in Seoul. In a video recorded before his arrest, Yoon claimed the investigation was illegal, but expressed his willingness to cooperate to prevent violence. Protests have erupted, with supporters of Yoon expressing their anger and disappointment, while opponents celebrate what they see as victory for justice. The CIO now has 48 hours to question Yoon before needing additional warrants, setting the stage for a new chapter in South Korea's ongoing political crisis. Moving to the UK now, where amid a variety of other negative economic news, it seems that there has been at least some positive news, specifically that inflation in December had slowed to a mere 2.5%, lower than the 2.6% it was reported as in November. This was relatively unexpected, and has eased pressure slightly on embattled Chancellor Rachel Reeves. There's now a chance that she pushes ahead with interest rate cuts next month. Reportedly, the easing of prices in restaurants, falling hotel prices, and smaller rises than expected in airfares contributed to the slight reduction in inflation last month. While this in itself is good news, it comes among other worrying economic trends. Economists still expect inflation to accelerate in the next few months, and the Chancellor is currently contending with high borrowing costs sparked by fears that the UK economy could be entering stagflation. All in all then, it's been a particularly tricky start to the year for the Chancellor, and many are now wondering what action, if any, she'll take to stabilise the economy in the coming months. Moving back to the US now, where a looming decision by the Supreme Court on a potential TikTok ban is driving users to another app by ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, an app called RedNote. The Supreme Court is set to make a decision on Sunday over the fate of the short-form video app, with lawmakers being concerned over the security of the app. As a result, content creators have been shifting to other apps in case they're no longer able to use TikTok. While many have been moving to Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, many others have simply moved to the Chinese RedNote app, which is similar to TikTok but has more content controls and is more heavily censored. For instance, criticism of Chinese cybersecurity law or advocacy for human rights in Xinjiang have been flagged or removed. Further adding to this concern, a leaked internal document showed that the platform censors discussions that could be deemed controversial or destabilizing. Regardless of these concerns though, it was the most downloaded app on Apple's US App Store yesterday, and will likely continue there throughout the week as the potential TikTok ban deadline gets closer. There's a lot of difficult decisions necessary here, and making huge decisions, especially quickly, is difficult, even for world leaders. The good thing is that Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data, programming, and AI. Their interactive classes help build your critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorizing. So while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you'll also be becoming a better thinker. For instance, their Predicting with Probability course can help you better understand and assess the world around you. You can learn to wrangle massive datasets, compare distributions, and master fundamental concepts like Bayes' theorem. That might sound a little technical, but with their active learning, you learn this by answering questions like which airline is least likely to have a delay due to weather, and how much more unruly airline passengers have gotten since the pandemic. Data skills are absolutely necessary for navigating the modern world, and Brilliant is the best way to get them. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, or click the link in the description. And by doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.